Hi, welcome to this week's astrology report. I am Jody Shirami at AstroPod_cast, and this is for the week of November 7th through November 14th. So this is another big week. There's transits happening, but it's not as hectic as the next couple of weeks are going to be, or the weeks before us that just came by. So this week, starting today, Uranus, who's in the last degrees of Gemini, is moving back into Taurus and will be there until April 24th, 2026. And then Mercury will be stationing retrograde on the 9th, starting in Sagittarius at about 6 degrees and 48 minutes. And it will travel all the way back into Scorpio at 20 degrees, where it began its pre-shadow phase on October 23rd. And then the next big thing that's happening is that Jupiter will be stationing retrograde at 25 degrees of Cancer, and that will be going on until next year. And it's only retrograde in Cancer, so not such a hectic season with that. This week is there's a lot of things happening, and again we're talking about how every time something happens it's going to run into Pluto in Aquarius. It's now going to run into Uranus retrograde back into Taurus, and then Mercury is now beginning its retrograde until the 29th of November, when it will be stationing direct in the sign of Scorpio. So this Mercury retrograde is really the big news of the week in terms of Mercury, who is moving quickly, is going to be conjoining Mars this week, who's also in Sagittarius. And Mars is moving slower than Mercury, so as Mercury goes retrograde, it's going to move back and meet up with Mars again. Now when it stations forward, it's also going to run into Mars again. And with Mercury being in Sagittarius, the way we speak, the way we communicate, things are going to start moving quicker. But just as things start to move quicker, Mercury goes retrograde on the 9th. And so we were talking about that last week, how just get ready for Mercury to go retrograde. Don't start anything new. Get ready for the retrograde. Start preparing your data, because it seems like data, computer data, is really going to be affected with 3i Atlas and the Sun. Coronal mass ejection is very big right now. And with Uranus, again, we talked about this, going back into Taurus. We've already seen seismic activity in terms of typhoon that hit Philippines this week, and now Vietnam is preparing for it, and it's going to go across most of Southeast Asia. So these are things that are really happening in real time with all the seismic activity, with the sun ejecting so much plasma at us that it doesn't seem coincidental that 3i Atlas is out there with a fleet of 6 comets following in its wake. It seems to me like I've spoken about before, the 3i Atlas might be a sort of rock, or whatever it is, a ship that goes around the universe and does a status update of what's going on in the universe. And now it's in this area, and it seems to be here right at the time when the Earth is going through a very big shift in its environment, with global warming occurring. And it's been known that the Earth has reset its environment before. So it seems like hopefully 3i Atlas is here to help us into that shift, because we have survived that shift before. At least some humans have survived it before. So, you know, there's all kinds of thoughts, what could be going on and all that. And with Mercury going retrograde over these points again, we're really going to get to see Three-Eye Atlas, the pictures of it, as hopefully the government of America gets back into business and they will release these pictures that only America seems to have access to, because we have a big telescope on Mars that could see what was going on with Three-Eye Atlas when it was near the sun. And it's also met up with Venus, or getting ready to meet up with Venus. So it's really a lot of stuff going on, and it really fits into the astrology in terms of the Great Awakening, that people don't want to say awakening, but that's what it is. As our consciousness rises and we start to understand things on a larger scale, where we're not just looking only at our own selves and our own little environment that we live in, we're starting to see that there's more to life than what we think we know. Things are going to start to shift that way, especially with this Mercury retrograde. And that's why the astrologers are really talking about this Mercury retrograde being really the big thing that's happening all the month of November until December, when it re-enters back into Sagittarius in December. So we had the Mars retrograde in Cancer and Jupiter and Cancer and Leo, and that was a big deal. And now Jupiter is preparing to go retrograde in Cancer for quite a bit of time, and that's also a big deal. But Mercury being retrograde is the biggest deal because it's beginning in Sagittarius, where it has an open mind and is ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter right now is in Cancer. Jupiter is preparing to go retrograde pretty much the same time as Mercury. And again, is that coincidental? I don't think so. So basically, Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius is, we get this energy in our minds and our communication, and Sagittarius is ruled by the number 9, and the number 9 represents learning, exploring, wanting knowledge, seeking knowledge, because Jupiter is the great teacher, the great benefic. And so Sagittarius with Mars here as well, Mars is also very exploring right now, and all of us are really into this Three-Eye Atlas, and that again feeds into the number 9, the number of learning that's beyond our scope. It's beyond the traditional learning, education. And then when it starts to go back into Scorpio again, Mercury, where we've been the past month of October, we're going to go over those points again all the way back till October 23rd, where it began its beginning pre-shadow phase, right? So why is that a big deal? Well, when you're thinking about something that's out there, the number 9 that you're exploring, you don't really have enough information to really say anything yet. You have to go out and explore. So when you go back to Scorpio with Mercury, your mind is again going to go back over these mysteries of what is Three-Eye Atlas, mysteries of what is alien life, what is happening in the cosmos, what are we doing in the cosmos, and then, but it's a personal kind of thing with Scorpio. So we have to really dig deep inside and see if we can handle the thought of alien life, because the government has kept it for us for such a long time because they didn't want to cause fear and terror and, you know, mass hysteria, which you've seen can happen easily. So are we as a species really able to handle more information coming in about Three-Eye Atlas as we go back over these points, back again into Scorpio? And with Jupiter also beginning to retrograde, Jupiter is also going to go back over these same points in Cancer that we've been going over since it entered in October. We'll be thinking about what happened in October, all the way back when it entered in June. And a lot has happened since June in the universe of our life, especially in our individual countries and individual collective in terms of consciousness being awakened. So what is our unconscious? What does that mean when our consciousness is being awakened? Consciousness is something that is what we perceive to be reality and how we think about reality. Unconsciousness are things that we do automatically since we're born, which is to cry as soon as we're born and we don't have enough oxygen. We're going to cry and get all that oxygen so we can breathe, right? Eventually we're going to learn how to open our eyes and look and breathe. So we learn how to breathe as soon as we come out of our mother through that cry. And that's the unconscious awakening your body so that you can exist in this body through the unconscious. So eventually learn how to do everything, eating, go to the bathroom, everything through the unconscious. Without that, you're not alive in a traditional sense of being alive. So how do you eventually get to your consciousness? How do you even know that exists? That's when you start looking in the mirror and you start talking to yourself. You start to see. If you've never done that, you should really try that. You look in the mirror and stare yourself deeply in your eyes and see who you're talking to, and you're actually talking to yourself. And sometimes, if it helps, write in the third person, like Jody is speaking into the camera. Jody's wondering what she should say right now. Jody's wondering if anyone's listening to her, but Jody still keeps talking into the camera, right? So that's the third person. Then you can become aware and see yourself from above more consciously and see what it is you're doing, how you're moving your body around, how you look, right? And that's why having film and pictures was such a huge thing when it was invented, because you could finally see yourself consciously. And you can see your hand moving consciously, right? Through the eyes of someone else. So that's why film and movies are ruled by Neptune in the domain of Pisces, because that's where there are no boundaries. Anything can happen in film. You can make a stuntman do something. Now you can use AI to do something. So it's like there's no boundaries. There's no consciousness in what you're doing there because you're just doing it, right? So this is where we're headed towards, and that's why this Mercury retrograde, this whole month of Neptune, in the deepest, darkest part of Scorpio season, because now we're in the Scorpio seasons, which I talked about last week, and then next week will be in the Scorpio Pisces season, then we're going to head into the Sagittarius Aries season, then Sagittarius Leo season, then Sagittarius season, right? So right now we are still in the deep part of Sagittarius heading into Sagittarius Pisces. And Neptune has now moved back into Pisces at the 29 degrees and 50 minutes, I believe. And it's going to stay there the entire time it's retrograde back into Pisces. It's going to sit at that 29 anaretic degree of sudden, complete, permanent changes that we cannot go back and change. So this is something I heard one of the astrologers said today was, whatever has happened in 2024, 2025, and soon 2026, we won't be able to go back and redo any of that because, again, Pluto will no longer be leaving Aquarius when it retrogrades. And once Uranus moves back into Gemini next year, it will no longer be moving back into Taurus. And Jupiter will be moving into Leo and not retrograding back into Cancer, from what I remember. And Neptune will no longer be going back to its home sign of Pisces. It will be moving forward in Aries. Saturn will no longer be going back into Pisces. It will continue on in Aries as well. So this is why they call it, this is why everything is so serious out in the mundane world right now, because we're getting ready to flip the way humans interact and how they feel about themselves, and the learning's going to change. The way you learn now, you won't need to go to school probably the way you do now traditionally. You probably can do it online. And we're seeing all kinds of flaws in the educational system as it is, right? And that's, again, Saturn going back into Pisces to expose all those things that we've been taught that was true. But now we know that those books were chosen by people that had a different agenda for what we were to learn about ourselves. So all kinds of things are changing. And with Jupiter going backwards in Cancer, again, Jupiter is about abundance. And when it stops, it's going to be more abundance, right? More powerful. And with hurricane season almost over, we're feeling very blessed in Florida because there hasn't been any huge hurricanes, knock on wood. But it doesn't mean that it's not affecting the rest of the world, because when it doesn't come here, then it's going somewhere else, as we saw with Jamaica. Jamaica got hit pretty hard. Cuba got hit pretty hard. Bermuda, again, was in the line of fire, which also is a little bit odd that Bermuda is so involved in what's happening. What is going to be unearthed is really the next step, because the next big thing happening in November will be on the 19th and the 20th, which is the Scorpio new moon. So we're just now leaving the Taurus full moon, where we have come to fruition. Whatever it is we were working on for 6 months, it came for us. We got rewarded. We've been working for the past 6 months towards a goal. And now we're going to head into the Scorpio new moon. And that is going to be a super powerful, again, new moon, because it's going to be at the last degrees of Scorpio, just like recently it was at the last degrees of Libra. Now the new moon would be at the last degrees of Scorpio. Then next month it'll be at the very last degrees of Sagittarius. And so this is a big deal with Mercury being retrograde in Sag and then Scorpio. And why it's even more important is that the moon in Scorpio with the sun making the new moon, where the moon's dark, it will also be conjuncting Mercury retrograde. So that's why Mercury retrograde is really, really a big deal. And if you have any planets ruled by Mercury in your chart, which would be Gemini and Virgo, just get yourself prepared in terms of it's going to be very emotional. Going back into Scorpio, and with it be going back into Scorpio, it's going to be an emotional November into halfway through December. It's going to be emotional. And so your thoughts are going to be really being ruled by Mars and Pluto here. And Mars, again, is going to be in Sagittarius, so it'll be a little bit lighthearted. But again, Jupiter is also retrograde in Cancer. So Mars in Sagittarius is also going to be slower because Jupiter is retrograde, which rules over Sagittarius. So this week, really prepare yourself, start doing all those things, review, revise, rethink, renegotiate, all those things. Take care of your computers, maybe back up your data, because if the sun's coronal mass ejection really is going to hit the earth here in a couple in this week time, this upcoming week, and the way it's setting up, according to Stefan Burns, is like, I think I said this last week, the last time it's set up like this, it put out all the electricity on Earth. But that was a long time ago where there wasn't this much energy. There was no internet yet. There was only the telegraph, which the wires burned up because of the electromagnetic storm. So if you're feeling any discomfort or kind of a headache or a little bit spacey when you wake up in the morning, you're probably being affected by a lot of the space stuff that's going on. I know I have. I've been waking up and having difficulty sleeping through a whole 8 hours, which is my goal every night. So really take it easy and take your time and meditate. Be alone, be still, be outside. So that's it for this week. It's going to be short and sweet. I'll be back next week on the 14th, and we will be getting ready then for the new moon in Scorpio on the 20th. So next week we'll talk about that and really take care of yourself and meditate. And thank you to all my subscribers and viewers. Thank you. I will be back next week, and I am Jody Shrammy at Astropod_cast. And thank you for being here. I am a little scatterbrained, and Mercury goes to sleep because Mercury rules over a bunch of my houses that I have. So I am getting really a little out of it and a little bit tired as the week comes and towards the new moon. The full moon also can be very tiring. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys. And hi to all my spiritual children. Thank you. Love you guys. Bye. See you next week.